Few minutes ago, our buddy Kyle Petersen, lead college baseball analyst at ESPN, joins us. He will be calling, I think, as the analyst for the Starkville Super Regional this weekend, Mississippi State and Notre Dame. KP, Haydad was telling me just a few minutes ago that he's heard that there is a a fund that is being put together to covertly transport you to Starkville this weekend, despite what any of your bosses say.
I think I may get my hand slapped for that one. It's whatever. It's disappointing, but this is it's going to be hard not being there. I'll tell you that. It's going to be really hard not being there. Just the environment. I mean, seeing those environments from afar. I was talking to Berkey earlier today, and he's like, "Man, I just remember that." The home runs that were in that Super Regional 2 years ago when Stanford was down there. And it's just, know it, man. I mean, you've done it. It's just it's different not being in the environment. It's harder. It's a lot harder, actually.
Well, and beyond the broadcasting piece of it, I was struck by the visuals this past weekend, not just of Starkville and Oxford. Baum was unbelievable on Monday night. Knoxville was spectacular. And these are, I mean, some of these are places that are used to doing this year in, year out. But it sure is kind of cool to see the excitement that's going around Tennessee baseball right now.
Oh, it's awesome. I think it's great for the league, too. I mean, you got a packed ballpark, and then I saw Tony Vitello the other day. Sent something out about packing it again this weekend, which I don't think that's going to be a difficulty with LSU coming to town.
No.
But it just adds another one, right? I mean, there's a ton of baseball history at Tennessee. There's just not a lot of it the last 15 years. Besides, this year, and they had it going last year. It was better the year before too. But it makes the game better when you have more environments that people will turn a TV on and go, man, where are they? Like what is that place? And they will be saying that this weekend about Knoxville. That is 100% for sure.
Yeah. I don't think they'll have to ask for long, though. That orange kind of stands out.
That's true. Yeah, that is true.
Hey, before we jump in and break down Mississippi State, Notre Dame, a couple of thoughts from you I'd love to get. A&M hires Jim Schlossnagle. Schloss has been so successful at TCU, 5 trips to the College World Series. How big a get was this for Texas A&M?
Big. I mean, I think it was a situation to where you don't make a move with Rob unless you get a pretty good idea as to who you're going to get. I'm sure that's where Ross was on this. It doesn't shock me. I mean, it kind of felt like maybe, Jim's name has been mentioned with a fair amount of high-profile jobs. I mean, Texas was one, and Mississippi State was a few years ago. This seems like a really good fit for everybody. He's built something at TCU, kind of felt like, okay, is it time just to go and try to do it somewhere else? And I would hope, and I've said this a few different outlets, I hope that what is not taken from this, I hope people realize the job that Rob Childress did. They went to the postseason 13 straight years, and they play in the SEC. Like that is not easy to do. And I know that their folks may think that they should have had a lot more success at the College World Series and everywhere else, but the consistency that Rob had at that program going prior to this year was something that is very rare in that league.
Yeah. Give me a take on the LSU situation. Kendall tweeted earlier this afternoon that multiple sources were telling him that Pat Casey was the leader for that job. That certainly is going to generate reaction for lots of reasons. If that turns out to be the case, Sully's name has been in there. Mike Bianco's name has been associated with that as well. You get any kind of a feel for what ultimately they do in Baton Rouge?
I think it's going to be a big time. Well, I guess in Pat's case, former head coach, but I think it's going to be a big time current head coach or former head coach. I don't see him going another route. What I think is interesting is when you look at some of the top coaches around the country, Kevin O'Sullivan's name is always mentioned. Dan McDonald's name is always mentioned. Brian O'Connor's name is going to start getting mentioned again. It was for a long time, and now it will again. Tim Corbin's name is always mentioned. To my knowledge, aside from Course being the head coach of Presbyterian for a year or two, None of those guys had prior head coaching experience before they took the jobs that they're in, which is pretty crazy when you think about it. I mean, those are four of the – if you went to about anybody and said, give me a list of the top 10 head coaches in the country, those four are going to show up almost every time in the top 10, and none of them were head coaches besides course for a year or two, but none of them were head coaches at the Division I level before they got the job that they currently have. So I think that, you know, it would be taking a big chance if you're LSU to do something like that, and I don't think that they will. It feels like they're going to go out and get the one that at least they feels to them is a little bit more seasoned from a head coaching standpoint, and I think it's a lock that it's going to be a big name, and then it just creates more downward ripples from wherever they're coming from.
Yeah, certainly going to be interesting to see how that plays out. You think it's after the Super Regional?
Well, I think it depends on who it is. I mean, if it's Pat, then I think it can happen at any time because it's not I don't think it's necessarily negative. But the other thing is yeah, I mean, I don't think they're going to do it before the Super because they're still playing. And, you know, I don't know if you want those kids to have to deal with questions regarding, hey, what do you think of Coach X that's coming in next year? If they're still trying to win a national title, at this point, they're 1 of 16 left. So even if a deal is done behind the scenes, I don't think there's any way that it gets announced before this weekend is done. And if they make it to Omaha, hell, you may want to just let the run continue to go and let everybody get the accolades that they deserve and make the announcement afterwards.
Mississippi State, Notre Dame. It feels like when you start studying about a team that you don't know a whole lot about, there's one name that jumps out. And it feels like the name that everybody is pointing to is Nico Cavadas after the big weekend that he had in the regional with 5 home runs. Are there other people that we need to know about when you look at Notre Dame?
Yeah, for sure. But, I mean, I think that what Cavadas did, and it wasn't just last weekend, but it's over the course of the season, that's clearly the one that you would point to the most. I mean, I think what was interesting to me is he came in to last weekend. I believe he had struck out like 7 or 8 times in a row. Yeah. And then he goes and hits 5 home runs in 3 games, and they score 50 runs or whatever it was. But no, I mean, I think that's the biggest name just because of the flash. Ryan Cole's had a really big year. Notre Dame was really more pitching and defense going into last weekend as opposed to offense. They're fielding above 980 as a club. I know the ERA is a good ERA. There's some swing and miss, not crazy swing and miss that we see across the country. It's more control guys. And then they put these offensive numbers up over the last 3 games that really are a little bit different from what they have been over the course of the season. So I think that's one thing to look at when they come in is, you know, which team is it? Is it the pitch, defend, hit enough team, or are they going to catch lightning in a bottle for another 2 or 3 games again and start spraying the ball all out of the ballpark?
If you had to isolate a difference maker, not necessarily in terms of a single player, but maybe a position group matchup, which sounds like more of a football thing, but something that you think is the difference in Mississippi State wins or loses, Notre Dame wins or loses this weekend, what is that thing?
I don't know. I don't know if there's one thing. I mean, I think that I feel like State is going to have the swing. State is going to have the swing and miss advantage over pretty much anybody that they play. I mean, that's just the way that staff is set up. That's what they are. And so, if you keep at the ballpark, you got a really good chance to win the series because you're going to have some swing and miss up and down. And I think that even though Notre Dame's numbers are very good this year as far as ERA, when you go compare strikeout numbers, and they haven't played as many games, but if you go compare strikeout numbers, there's zero comparison between the two. And so I think some of that is just how aggressive are you as a state team? They don't walk many guys, but they don't strike many guys out. How aggressive are you offensively if you're State, and can you hit the ball out of the ballpark? And on the flip side, can you keep it in the ballpark, which was the biggest issue last weekend for Notre Dame. But besides that, no, I mean, Notre Dame's had a big time year. Are they as talented as Mississippi State up and down the lineup? No, they're not. Are they as talented as State is on a pitching staff? No, they're not. But they've been a really, really good baseball team the entire year, and they can really pitch and defend.
Hey, we're up against a hard break. 30 seconds. Give me a thought on Ole Miss, Arizona out in Tucson.
Interesting. I mean, ballpark plays huge in the gaps. It's kind of Coors Field-ish. You're going to look at the numbers and go, is it really 410 to left center? But it is. Light air ball will fly. Offenses are going to like to hit there, not necessarily only because of home runs. But if you get a ball in the gap, you got a chance to hit a triple, and they've got some guys that can run. So I think it's a good matchup. I think Arizona's really good.
Certainly going to be a fun weekend. Looking forward to it. We will be watching. KP, thanks as always for your time.
All right, bud. See you.